Hello everybody, what is going on? Jimmy here, back with another video, and I know this one was a very long one coming. A lot of people have been asking, where is the Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity review? I know I promised this review a really long time ago, but I wanted to take my time with this game, and I wanted to really take it all in, and I wanted to see if this game truly was the prequel to Breath of the Wild, and if it lived up to what standard Breath of the Wild set, because I feel like in a lot of ways, Breath of the Wild set an almost unrealistic standard for a prequel, that even if this prequel was a 10 out of 10, it just would not feel like it was better than Breath of the Wild or good enough to be the backbone, I guess, of the storyline that happens in Breath of the Wild. Because for those of you who haven't played Breath of the Wild, this is not spoilers, by the way, the story just isn't that much. There's not that much story in the game. The world kind of lets you figure itself out, and I feel in a lot of ways that's a plus, but some people feel that it's a negative, and maybe one of those people was Nintendo, because they gave us a prequel to tell us what went on during those years of the Great Calamity when, we couldn't see any of that stuff happen because obviously the game kind of, didn't let anything happen there, and they thought to themselves, well, I guess we could show the world being destroyed and all this using a Warriors style game. And on paper it makes so much sense to use a Warriors game to do this with, because at the end of the day, doing it in the traditional Breath of the Wild sense would have been a lot harder, the budget would have been a lot higher, and it ultimately would have been a less cost effective and more time consuming way to deliver a similar product. Basically, they just wanted to tell you a story with this game is what we all thought. Well, it turns out we were all wrong. Some leaks happened a couple months ago, leaking the ending of the game, and yes, we are going to get into spoiler territory in this video, so if you want to leave now, that's my warning for you. We are going to be getting into some spoilers, but the leak for the game showed none of the enemies at the end dying, and because of that, a lot of people freaked out, said, oh my god, this is crazy, this isn't the game they promised us, this is not the prequel that we were promised a proper prequel, what is this mess that we have right here, this is not a prequel. And then people thought to themselves, maybe there's a second ending, maybe there's this, maybe there's that, but guess what, there is a secret ending, but that doesn't change the fact that the game still does not unravel the way that Breath of the Wild lets us think that it does. Breath of the Wild tells us that the champions are all supposed to die. Well, except for Link, because Link's technically a champion. All of the champions but Link are supposed to die, and Zelda is supposed to seal away all this stuff, like all of this stuff. I'm not going to get into everything that happens in Breath of the Wild, because if you haven't played that game, I'm surprised you're even here. But basically, everyone was just shocked by this, Like, why didn't the story unravel the way that we thought it would? This game was supposed to be the prequel to Breath of the Wild. That's at least how it was, marketed. It was marketed as, see the story unravel of what happens before the events of Breath of the Wild. The way they tell it. It's not exactly true. What ended up happening was we got a game that is, for better or for worse, a celebration of the Breath of the Wild area of Zelda. Let's be realistic here. The original Hyrule Warriors was just a celebration of Zelda. It was just a celebration of Zelda. This Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is a celebration of Breath of the Wild type Zelda. This game, for better or for worse, like I said, is a celebration of Breath of the Wild, basically, because the story, there's no way possible it's canon. I mean, there's no way that the story is canon. So many things change, so many things contradict each other. The Sheikah Slate's one of them. I mean, there's so many. I could go on for an hour. I could go on for an entire hour of things that don't make any sense in this game if it is truly a proper prequel to Breath of the Wild, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save your time, and I'm going to cut right to the chase with this review. First of all, graphically, not impressed. From the cutscenes to the regular just walking around the world. As you can see, this video footage right here you're watching, it has been upscaled to 4K, so it is going to look a little cleaner than what you're going to see on your Switch, because my video editor naturally upscaled everything that I post to 4K. So because that, this is better looking what you're seeing right now than the actual game will look. You have to remember that. Especially on lower resolution screens, it's going to look better. So when you look at this, you say, oh, Jimmy, the world doesn't look that bad. Go download the demo and look at the world. It is very pixelated in some parts, and in some parts it looks almost like they are parodying Breath of the Wild. There's some things that just don't look right. They look literally like cheaper versions of something you'd see in Breath of the Wild, and that's massively disappointing. I get Koei Tecmo made the game with a couple other people too. In this game, the Zelda team wrote the story, but at the end of the day, the game was pretty much all made by not Nintendo. So basically, I think this studio did the best they could to deliver an experience that was similar or comparable to Breath of the Wild, which I guess it is, but sometimes you want to paraglide, and the paragliding just looks so terrible compared to the paragliding in Breath of the Wild. That's just one example that came to my head. Next, let's talk frame rate. The frame rate of this game chugs. And when I mean chugs, I mean chugs. The frame rate is not a good experience whatsoever. You're going to be dropping frames pretty much through the whole game, you're going to be below 30 FPS, but you're going to drop down to the teens every once in a while, especially when there's a lot of enemies on screen. Maybe you will see it drop down in this video, but I don't know, again, because it is upscaled. I have the frame rate set to 60 frames on this video, so who knows, maybe it'll kind of correct those or make them less noticeable than they would be on a lower frame rate video if I just posted the raw footage. But basically, while you're playing, you will see that the game does not exactly hold a good frame rate or a good visual fidelity. Neither one of them are anything to brag about, and for Switch in 2020, it just makes sense for it not to really be that great. Nothing in Switch has really been that great. The best game I played on Switch all year was Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which was a port from the Wii U that's like 10 years old. So as you can see what I'm saying here, nothing that was really that great came out this year. Paper Mario was pretty bad in my opinion. I struggled through most of it. Animal Crossing was great, but truly it just didn't have like a gripping story. When we're talking story narratives and different things, Animal Crossing's obviously out of the conversation. For addicting gameplay, Animal Crossing's there. But let's talk about the addicting gameplay in this game. So the gameplay is quite addicting, right? You go around, you slash all these people. It's a hack and slash. You beat these people up and you might think, wow, this is really fun. You might be playing the demo going, wow, I really, really like this. This is great. But just know one thing. By the time you're at the end of the game, you're going to want to cry because the game doesn't evolve on that formula at all. If anything, it relies more on it towards the end of the game. And, driving these divine beasts, the thing that was promised to be so cool, just truly ends up feeling like, like a parody of Breath of the Wild. It just feels so stupid compared to Breath of the Wild. How magnificent Breath of the Wild made all this stuff feels. I feel like Koei Tecmo kind of dragged it down a little bit, brought it back down to reality a little bit, and I think it's kind of for the worse. In my opinion, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity does not live up to the past Zelda Breath of the Wild. I truly don't think it's as good. Breath of the Wild for me was a 10 out of 10 title. This game, I'm going to have to give it a 6 out of 10. I'm sorry. For anyone who's mad at me for that, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to give it a 6 out of 10. Yes, I like Cyberpunk 2077 more. And the thing is that Cyberpunk 2077 didn't even have that great of a story. I like the story in this game, right? I like more things that I hated. So a 6 out of 10 for me, what that means is I enjoyed more of it than I didn't enjoy. But overall, I did not think it was a great experience. I think truly, if you can just get a story synopsis and not waste your time playing through this entire thing, that's exactly what I would do. I would not sit there and play through all this. For me personally, at a 6 out of 10, I was not really impressed by it. Kind of disappointed and let down because at the end of the day, I was really looking forward to this game. Like I said, as someone who absolutely loved Breath of the Wild, I was truly looking forward to a prequel to the game that was going to be magnificent and blow my socks off, and I don't think this is it. Straight up, I don't think this is it. I feel as if this game is not as good as Breath of the Wild, and like I said, if you could just get through the story, if you want to know like what kind of a prequel, it's not even really necessary to go through the story. It's basically like a reimagining of Breath of the Wild's prequel. It's not truly Breath of the Wild's prequel. There's nothing lines up properly. It's truly just not. I don't know if they're creating another timeline. I don't know if they're splitting the timeline again. I thought we got away from that in the Zelda series. I guess we did not. I'm not sure what's going on with this because honestly, it does not make a lot of sense. And who knows, the Zelda team's probably going to do an interview or probably going to answer questions about different things. And this is going to come up as to where this game goes in the series. And I'd love to know because if they try to act like this is a prequel, then they just retconned like half of Breath of the Wild story, which is a really strange and interesting decision to make considering the praise Breath of the Wild received. If the game was, considered the worst Zelda game of all time, I could understand them trying to act like some stuff didn't happen in the story. I can understand them doing that, okay? Like I understood with the Transformers live action movies when they tried to try to take certain parts out of it and kind of make you forget about different things because they wanted you to forget certain things that happened because it was kind of a bad way to go about something. I understood that because they were not received well, those movies. But with something like Breath of the Wild that was received so well and considered a standard for open world games, that and The Witcher 3 were considered standards for open world games at the time of their releases and truly broke boundaries, I feel that they could have done better for a prequel. Yes, I understand that the combat couldn't have gotten any better, but overall I just feel like the game is lacking with the magic that Breath of the Wild has, and I'm not going to lie to you and say that it isn't. Alright, thank you so much for watching the video. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to leave me a like, comment, maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. I will be doing more reviews in the future. This was my review of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Yes, I know I'm going to get some people who disagree with me, and I'd love to hear it in the comment section below what you thought about it. If you agreed with me, if you disagreed with me, I'd love to hear it all down below. Thank you so much for watching. Jimmy Outta Here. I really wanted to like this game more than I did. I really wanted to like this game more than I did. Thank you for watching. Jimmy out of here.